Hey folks, walk with me. A question came in that was basically, why are we so connected to things and people if we're going to lose it all anyway? And it was sort of in the context of like, why is life, or why is existence set up in such a cruel way? Right? That the entire sort of foundation of being is that we are surrounded by all of these things. We accumulate all of these possessions. We end up engaged in all of these relationships, and ultimately it's all destined to go away, right? Either because we go away, or because those people end up out of our lives somehow. This person was very focused on the fact that these people will die someday. And yeah, just thinking that sort of like, if those are the rules of the game, that they were feeling like the game was ultimately like a cruel endeavor. My thought on this is essentially one of paradox. And I know there's going to be people that don't love this answer, and there's going to be people that don't love this answer and then sort of are like, okay, I get it though. In Taoism, there are a lot of verses in the Tao that talk about paradoxical ways of thinking, paradoxical realities, and it's a hard grasp for many Western minds. And it's because, the Western world is not really attuned to or accustomed to thinking in paradoxes. We think very much on one side of a paradox. What I mean by that is we don't think of people oftentimes as black and white, right? We think of them as like a singular black or white, right? Good or evil. Or we think of them as gray, right? But still then trying to contextualize everything into a singular, right? Pin them as gray, and that being an easier way to think about them being black and white, good and bad, which we all are, whether you want to admit it or not. We are all good and bad. And this is similar to that. The joy that this person feels currently in their life is the joy of having these people. I'm just going to focus on the people, because the things, it gets a little too materialistic focused, I think. And I think if we focus on the people, we'll get the same context for the things, right? Or the situations. But they're feeling the joy of having these people in their life. They're surrounded by loving family. They are engaged in meaningful and deep connection and relationships with these people. And the reality of that joy and its existence arises together with the non-existence. In other words, those joyful people were there, and those people, let's think of like grandparents, for example, which is a particular relationship that this person named. So the grandparents were alive and were those same joyful beings, or had the same capacity to expend joy to others as they do now. And they were alive before this person existed, right? Grandparents, obviously, alive before grandchildren. So they spent a chunk of their life absent of the current relationship, right? Because this person hadn't been born yet. And now what this person is sort of staring down the barrel of is a chunk of time of their life where they will be without the joy of this relationship and connection because they're going to lose their grandparents. But it is the same thing, right? There is a point in time, there's a period where this relationship doesn't exist. And that's what allows it to then start existing. This is where the paradox comes into play. It couldn't exist unless it previously didn't exist. And even then, I'm using exist in a way that I wouldn't normally, but this can't be a 45-minute video. So I'm taking some shortcuts here. But just realize that you were able to have this relationship because there was a period of time before you were born that they didn't have this engagement or this relationship. And then there's going to be a period of time after they die where you can't have this relationship. But it is in the fact that it has the capacity to go away, to no longer be available. That gives it the ability in between those periods of time to be available. And so this is the only way that it could occur. So that would be one thing. The other thing that I've touched on in some other videos, so I'm not going to belabor it too much, but I would also say, keep in mind that the fact that these things are impermanent, right? They won't go on forever. And this person is keenly aware of that. But again, you can think of this two ways. You can think of it as they currently are, as this like dreaded state of affairs where things are going to turn sour, right? Where this is going to be sort of a blotch on their life, that they're going to lose these people. You could think of it as you could think of it in the other way as the joy that you feel toward them and with them is in part because it isn't always going to last. The reality that this thing is temporary. Not only is it temporary, but you have no clue how temporary it is. Is it 30 more years temporary? Or is it tomorrow temporary? You don't know. And the quality of connection is in many ways strengthened because you know that this is not going to last forever, and so you need to draw out of it what you can while it's here. And you don't know, like I just said, how impermanent it is. Again, is it tomorrow impermanent or is it 30 years impermanent? You don't know. And so this concept of drawing out of it what you can while it's occurring is the essence, part of the essence of what sort of makes it so palpable, so powerful. Is the fact that this well will dry up at some point. And so you're savoring every drop of water in it. And it's in the savoring that enhances the joy in the experience. So it would be not to stick unnervingly on this water metaphor. I'm not doing this intentionally, but there could be or would be a watered down aspect to to the relationship if there wasn't this idea that the well is going to dry at some point, and so you need to savor every bit that of drops that you have while you have it. So I get it, and you can be disturbed by the permanent nature of it, but you have to understand that in that disturbance that is the other side of your joy. You wouldn't have that disturbance if you didn't have the joy. You wouldn't have the joy if you didn't have the disturbance. So, all right. Anyway, it's getting loud, and we've gone on long enough here. I hope that all is well, and if you walked with me this far or just watched this far, I certainly appreciate it. And as always, I will see you in the next video.